So tonight's Tech 10 presentation will be by Clyde AB4CC. He's our repeater trustee. He's the guy that manhandles our repeater system as a guiding force in terms of maintaining and directing and all that kind of stuff. And he's been given a couple of presentations on how the system works, what it looks like, how to use it. And tonight will be the third in that series. Hopefully we'll cover all of it. There'll be room for questions, so save them. And Clyde, if you're out there, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you and take it away.
I think it was January, wasn't it, that we were talking about the repeater system in general? And here's a brief overview of the slide of the equipment that's up on the hill in Auburn, North Auburn. The Yaesus that are on 2 meters and 440, and then the old GE that's on 220. Here we are, the repeaters and their frequencies, where they are in the Auburn Ravine, and they have pretty good coverage over the Sacramento Valley and the American River Canyon. The 220 repeater currently is local area coverage, and thanks to the concurrence of the board and the club members, it'll soon be on All-Star Link and Echolink. We have the equipment in-house. We're just in a matter of getting it programmed up. Is that correct, Brian?
Correct.
Okay, good. On a 2 meter, it's FM analog, as we said before. It's local area coverage. It also has Echolink, which allows internet interconnection in and out from a wide area, in fact, all over the world, wherever you can get an internet connection. It runs on iPhone and Android over Wi-Fi. It's on All-Star Link at 51018. That's our node number. You can run the nodes on an actual radio node or DV switch on Android. And I discovered today there is a remote node called Node Remote for All-Star, which is for iPhone and iPad. It's $4.99. We're going to provide the connection information with codes via email so that the stuff doesn't get out all over the world. If you want more information on All-Star Link or HamVoIP, which is the software we use to control our nodes, or if you want to build one, I suggest that you go to these two websites for further information, or you can contact me. I'd be happy to help.
Clyde, before we move on, could you just discuss, I know a lot of people are probably familiar with Echolink, but All-Star Link, why would somebody choose All-Star or Echolink over each other?
Well, Echolink's been around for a long time and it's fairly limited. All-Star Link is worldwide. It's based on a telephone switch system called Asterisk. And further on in the future, we plan to have direct phone interconnection without phone patch when we figure out how to do all of that. But we are working on it. It's just a little more stable, a lot better working because it is designed around a commercial telephone switch.
And would you say there's a quality difference?
Yeah, I think that All-Star sounds a lot better when it works. The levels are better because it is designed to interface with a public switch telephone network.
Yeah, and Echolink is limited to the number of users, where All-Star Link can handle more people than probably would ever find our repeater.
Yeah, that's correct. This slide that's up is an example that was taken a while back in this February, and it shows our node in the middle and just a few of the links that are hooked up. A lot more can be hooked up. You can find that information on All-Star Link if you explore around. You can find any node you want to look at, and you do a command called bubble, and that's what we're looking at here. And at the time this was taken, these nodes were connected. I think the Colfax node is Roy. Some of the others in Sacramento, and here's a guy in Rockaway, New York. We've heard people from all over the country on the Coffee Break Network, and that's how they're getting into the system. And on the 440 repeater, it is C4 FM Fusion most of the time. It's local area coverage. It's IMRS, which is Internet Link Multi-Site Repeater System. That's a lot of a big mouthful. It allows predetermined repeaters to be connected via the internet, and it's controlled by digital IDs. Right now, a digital ID, for example, connects to the Gold Run repeater, which gives you further connection up the I-80 corridor. We also have OpenSpot digital radio IP gateway, which is YouTubers, and the Sierra NorCal net on YCS 360. Those are now enable people to connect in from outside the area to talk back on the repeater. Dennis and Gary are big users of that when they head to the desert and other places around the country.
And may I add, anybody who's coming over the summit, if they come in on the KA6SUB repeater up in Gold Run, if they put digital ID 5 into their Fusion radio, that will then connect not only to the Gold Run repeater, but also to our repeater. So you could talk back from pretty much all the way over to Soda Springs. You can talk back into Auburn and cover the valley through our repeater. And likewise, if you wanted to talk to somebody on the road through Gold Run, you would go onto our repeater, bring up digital ID number 2 on our repeater, and that would then automatically link it up to Gold Run. When you're done using it, 30 seconds of silence and the connection drops. So it's a really neat system, and it's pretty foolproof.
Right, correct. And it also goes into Bakersfield, which is where Ken was from, who originally helped set this up. And also we can talk to Bob on 440 Fusion by connecting into Twin Falls, Idaho. There's a repeater there on this system. There's also Wires X on it, which is a little bit different. Wires X is sort of like the Japanese version of All-Star. In Japan, if you remember, from our last presentation, they don't have repeaters. So they interconnected all these little repeaters and radios rather on nodes. It's a similar system. It is captive to Fusion at this point. What you see on is the wall here. It says there's the Wires X node. There's the radio and the Wires X Control HR200, which is the other black box. The little computer in the middle is a Raspberry Pi 2, which is internet connected, so you can listen on Broadcastify. Down below is various other equipment, the control head for the radio and some other things like that. It's its own proprietary software. You connect, and normally you talk on the repeater, you're in the Sierra NorCal room. You can steer this by codes to all over the world. There's the All Japan node, which shows up from time to time. This is an example of what you see, or what I see here. It's on the Sierra NorCal room. On the right side of the screen are people that have connected. On the left side of the screen shows a partial listing of all the nodes all over the world. If you want to connect to one, you can look up their number and connect. It's Worldwide Switch Network. It's not like All-Star. It must be a compatible C4 FM Yaesu radio, but you can steer it. You can listen at any time you want on Broadcastify. And this is the Wires X node that's at Brian's office. Is it still there, Brian?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and it's on our 2-meter side. Same thing, except it is analog. It's the W6EK 2-meter room, and it's internet connected, and it does the same functions. And so that's basically it. We will be putting together a list of all the codes that you need to access all these things and email it to all the current club members.
Now, if I could add, we are now entering a time where you can use just an analog radio with a device like the Clear node, and you can connect not only to the analog repeaters using All-Star, but you can also connect to our digital repeater using the FCS system that Clyde talked about earlier. So we are now entering a time where, for example, think about back in the day when you wanted to watch a movie, you had to decide whether you wanted to buy a VHS or a beta machine, and that was the only movie you could watch. Well, we're now starting to enter into a time where you can cross mode between analog, digital, and between digital devices. For example, Dennis is on the road right now with a D-Star radio, and we hear him on the Fusion radio through his open spot. So it's a really neat time where it's becoming less and less critical about what radio you choose, because the technologies are starting to merge.
Right. It's only limited by the size of your bank account.
And that's slowly getting better.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
there's a lot of hardware out there that we didn't cover because, you know, the minute you do a presentation, it's kind of like a computer. You know, 5 minutes later after you get it delivered, it's obsolete. And so there's a lot of that coming out. There were the open spot rooms. The clear node is the next generation, if you will, which does a little bit more. And so there's all kinds of stuff out there. And I encourage you all to experiment with our equipment and add on and talk to myself or talk to Brian, and we're happy to help you try it all out. And you can't break it. You can mess it up a little bit, but I'm here to fix it.
There we go. Hey, I just also wanted to say, most of us have a smartphone or a tablet or something out there. If you would like to be able to get in to our repeaters, you can do that using you do need to have proof of license, but there are several apps out there right now that you can put on your smartphones, whether it be iOS or Android based. And we'd be more than glad to walk you through very simple setup. We have public access, but we are going to be very careful about only sharing these codes with the club members. And when we provide these codes to you, we will ask that you keep them and not share them outside of our group, because we can always change it. But you know, we want to make it available to everyone in our group, but not share them outside of our group.
Right.
What is the protocol or use the node on our 2 meter repeater? I don't want to occupy the repeater and connect up to a, well, I do. I'd love to be able to connect up to a net and stream the other net across the country and be able to hear it. But is that frowned upon?
So most of us will use what's called a hotspot if we want to go around and listen in and participate in other nodes around the country. Because remember, if you come into the repeater and you direct the repeater to another network, you are tying up the repeater and everybody on the repeater with that, which is great if you're just hopping in and then you're going to hop out. But if it's something where you're going to go in and do a daily net or you know, a weekly check-in, and might take up a half hour and you're just kind of waiting for traffic, that's usually something you wouldn't put through a repeater, but that's why we have hotspots. So it would be personalized to you.
Or DV switch or echo link, where you can go direct to the repeater that is hosting the node, and then you're part of that, which is what people do in the morning on the Coffee Break Network. They come in via the internet and direct to our repeater, so they're not tying up their local repeater in, you know, in the home area for other things.
And then I always joke, after, if you redirect our repeater, it's kind of like using the bathroom. You put the seat down when you're done. So what I mean by that is, when you're done using the repeater, direct the repeater back to where it's normally parked. And for example, the 2 meter is typically parked on something that's called W6EK 2 meter room. And the 440 machine is normally parked on Sierra NorCal. And so quite often, Clyde his maintenance job is to go in and put the seat down after somebody's used it.
Yeah, right. I found it the last few days on the All Japan Network, which is really interesting because they're all speaking Japanese, you know, which is because they're in country rather than international calls.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Clyde. Brian, back to you.